I found the early years, I'm very happy, I'm thrilled with everything, but I found 90s and 2000s to be a time of constantly worrying, constantly fretting, constantly. And
even after the early, like it took you a while to get that flow.
It took forever, but what I guess I'm saying internally, I really like this period. Do you know what I mean? And in terms of just how I feel, I feel like
a security.
Maybe it's, and sometimes I think, I say to my wife, I think I've acquired some kind of inner wisdom because I'm much more at peace. And she says, no, actually testosterone levels fall. And what you're feeling is a loss of testosterone, which, by the way, is quite apparent in other areas of our life. And
it's an evolutionary trick to get you to stop striving.
Yeah. But
what they do is, genetically, they remove your ability. You're a neutered cat, young man, on a windowsill.
That's what I am.
Licking where your balls used to be.
I know.
You're done. Give it up. You're done, sir.
No, there's something there. There's a scar. There's 2 little scars where they used to be. And if I rub them, I get some satisfaction.
It's fascinating to me because, again, like, my observation of your track is so different than how you
everyone
experienced
feels
it.
Things.
I remember watching your show, like, the first week I was like, oh, these dudes, they know what, not only do they know what they're doing, but they're like, I remember the Clutch Cargo shit and and like the absurdist comedy. Right. And the guy, I was like, oh, they've done, like, by God, they've done it. Like, I knew that there would be, as you get used to productions and you're going to be sanding. People don't realize that productions are functions of management prowess, that there's a sort of active management that you have to post-mortem. Like, you're a comedy show with a masturbating bear. Like, the bear masturbates, and then afterwards you're like, so what did you guys think? Like, there's that part at the end. Like, how did it go?
When he was batting at his diaper, you don't. It's got to be in a 2-shot.
That's
you need to see.
Right. Yeah, that's
what's so funny is my favorite part of when you're doing it for a while, and then is, yes, there are the years where you're taking it so seriously and everything is life. And it really does feel like The Bear. It's one of the reasons, like, I watch The Bear, great comedy, but when I watch The Bear and I'm just
fantastic.
I watch it and I sometimes I think this is too much tension, and I've experienced a lot of that in my life. Right. And I just want to watch Selling the OC, something that doesn't have that.
I imagine what you liken to is a creative pursuit where there is a certain maniacal desire for brilliance or excellence or whatever the comedic equivalent of a Michelin star is, that you hold yourself to that standard. And ultimately you end up in a freezer telling your beloved, you're going to die alone and get the fuck out. Like, that's, and that's a painful thing to watch because it is analogous to that pursuit. I can remember, I did a show that was more of a talk show on MTV, and then we went to Paramount, and we knew probably a month in, I was supposed to be the Arsenio replacement. And you can imagine people
I've always thought of you as Arsenio.
Exactly. So you can imagine that people who had been, sort of trained on that audience, I would pop up and they'd go, no.
Right.
We're going to say no. Yeah. So I knew like a month into it, this is we're going to go down. When it happens, I don't know. And I had that same, The Bear mentality of, but I'm doing a silly show. So there was one night, and booking was really hard because it was syndication. So we'd appear at 3 a.m. in Atlanta, but 7 p.m. in Phoenix. Like, it was just all over the place. And we would be there till 1 o'clock in the morning every night, trying to squeeze every last bit of the Willy Wonka parody that we thought we were going to do. But can we really even afford the hat? If he doesn't have the hat, is he really Willy Wonka? Like, that kind of shit. And in our exhaustion and in our frenetic energy and in our desire to save it and be great, one day we were all in my office. Stevie Higgins was in there. He was the head writer. And the door opens and it's the booker. And he looks in with a look on his face of that look that maybe doctors had 2 weeks into the pandemic.
Right.
And he goes, Hal Linden said no. And we all went, what? Barney Miller's not going to do the show?
Right.
And it was then that I realized, like, oh, I think I'm going to jump off a building because my emotional well-being is now wrapped up into whether an actor that nobody had seen probably in 8 years. It was like Herschel Bernardi.
He was the headmaster on Circus of the Stars in 1980.
Oh.
So he was still quite relevant.
He was still quite relevant, but it was
13 years
like,
later.
Herschel Bernardi wants to see a script and he wants to approve it. And you're like, Gah!
Yep.
But it was your whole well-being was tied up in these unbelievably trivial moments that didn't matter even 5 feet outside of that door.
Right. But the other thing too is I used to live and die by what our rating was, and it would come out on a Thursday.
Right.
And I would all day Wednesday, the tension would be rising. And then I would go home, not sleep Wednesday night.
Oh, wow.
And I would come in Thursday and take the elevator up. And this is back when I was on 3-month contracts, and they're thinking, we've got a replacement ready for Conan. He isn't quite ready yet, but we'll get rid of him soon. And I'd take the elevator up and I would come in and I would walk to my producer's like I was going to the gas chamber.
Yeah, yeah. You get these crazy, like,
and what I remember is if the number was a 2 or above, a 2.0, it was great. If it was a 1.9, it was bad. And what I didn't realize...
By the way, a 2.0 now is like a hit sitcom on a network.
Well, this was
at 8 o'clock.
This was at 12:35 at night.
Right.
But
an amazing number.
But you know what I found out? You know what I found out was that was the demo. But what I remembered was the demo, if it was a 2.0, it was like, hallelujah, we made it at 1.9. And then I found out much later on that the sample size, because it's a Nielsen rating for that, is literally like, there's 6 people. If one of them has a head cold and takes some NyQuil and turns in early, you had you disappointed America that week. And if one person didn't have a head cold and watched it, and all 6 people watched it, you were a hero. And I always instinctively knew that I'm living and dying by this infinitesimal shit. And that's called, I think, being young. You're just, you're in your late 20s, 30s, and then into the 40s, and then just
perspective.
It takes this erosion of, I've been disappointed and scared so much that I have none of that juice left anymore.
Right. I can tell you, I remember the moment that changed for me. And it was...
Was it getting this podcast, this booking?
It was coming in here and reading this and realizing that you don't consider us friends yet.
No, we aren't.
This is a future desire.
Yeah, we'll see. John, I'll let you know.
I was about to read this in the past, you bastard. We knew this fucking thing was dead.
Yep.
Like, you could just see it, and you could tell 2 weeks into it, I'm still thinking,
this is
like,
the Jon Stewart Show.
It was on MTV. They loved it.
Right.
Because it was Beavis and Butthead. It was written for 7-year-olds. So, it
by
was a
8-year-olds,
huge
for
success
7-year-olds.
there.
Yeah.
Right. We go to Paramount and people were like, I have no idea what the fuck this is. Like 2 weeks into it, we do a bit. I thought it would be funny if we have Dave Attell, one of our writers at the time, dress up as Hitler and come out like he's a guest on the show. Like, hey, everybody wonder what happened to Hitler. Yeah. Oh, I think you brought a clip. And it's him at Nuremberg going, so I don't think anything of it. I think, and we're laughing our balls off because every idea you come up with is 2 o'clock in the morning and you think it's hilarious because you're sleep deprived in the way that Stalin would torture people, like it's 2 in the morning. And so they're like, what if Attell was Hitler? And I'm like, love it. Let's have him come out holding a bagel with a schmear going, I don't know what I was so afraid of. These are delicious.
These are good.
Boom. I'm going to kill. He comes out. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest, it's not on the docket. It's not
Right.
like you have it like, we had somebody from Beverly Hills 90210, not the lead, but like somebody who was just sitting at the Peach Pit. Like not even, we couldn't get guests.
So not Joe E. Tada?
But whatever it is.
Sorry, come on.
How did you remember that name?
And you know
is
what?
that really a person?
Joey Tada was the actor who it was the guy that ran the Peach
Oh
Pit.
my
And
God.
I even know that.
Can I say something? I can't think of my son's name right now, but I know Joe E. Tada. Joey Tada, we love you, man. If he's still alive, I'll eat my hat.
Bingo! I know that one.
That is amazing. So we don't like it's. We've got nothing. This isn't planned. First guest of the night, we do the monologue, do the whole thing, and at that time, it's all OJ. It's all okay. Ladies and gentlemen, first guest, very surprising. Nobody's heard from him for many, many years. We are just so honored that he chose to do this show first. Ladies and gentlemen, Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
Attell walks out in full Nazi regalia, and he's doing this, and he's got the mustache, and he's holding a bagel.
Sure.
And what I didn't realize is the crowd would rightfully boo the shit out of him.
Yeah.
It's Hitler.
Yeah.
The whole thing devolves. I see in the control room, there's an immediate break. The stage manager comes out and goes, they need to see you in the control room. I go to the control room. We're filming on 26th Street in New York.
Yeah.
Paramount, our syndicator, they're watching
Yeah.
from a lot in Los Angeles.
Sure.
The phone rings. It's just one guy. And he goes, that will never see the light of day. That will never air. You will never do that again. I actually turned it into an episode when I was writing for Sanders.
Right.
We turned it into an episode, Adolf Hankler, where I had on the Wu-Tang Clan and Adolf Hankler, and Rip Torn had to come in and go, no. we're not doing that. They called me immediately. I was 2 weeks into a show and we're already putting reruns on.
Yeah.
So we knew this thing's going down. But I had your experience of like, this is my shot. Like, this is it. My name is on this. This is this is a manifestation of who I am as an artist, as a person. If it gets rejected, I am rejected. I wasn't sleeping. I was really miserable. I was drinking like a motherfucker, like all those different things. And one night in my insomnia at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, I just remember thinking, you're going to have had your own talk show with your name on it, where you could do whatever you wanted, other than dress up Dave Attell as Hitler.
Right.
And people are going to say, did you enjoy it? And I would have to say, I hated it. And I think it nearly destroyed me.
Mm-hmm.
And what a dumb fucking response.
Yeah.
And that morning, I got up and was like, I'm going to enjoy the shit out of this. Yeah. And I don't care anymore. Yeah. And it was revelatory. And it was such I felt it physically, like that relief. Now, the blow of the story is, they canceled it pretty soon thereafter. Yeah. Like, I had the revelation, and the story should have been like, and I learned to enjoy it, and the show soared. And the ratings, Conan, the ratings. You wouldn't believe. I was literally shitting money. It was amazing.
It's like you're Scrooge.
Yes.
And you woke up.
Boy, what day is it?
And you're shouting out the window, and people are like, fuck you. Where's the cranky old man? We liked him. What?
Boy, what day is it? It's your eviction day. You're leaving.
Get out.
So, but it was the lesson of my career. And it tied into the sort of flip side of that was when I got Letterman a couple of years prior, which had been my sole goal for 5 or 6 years of working in the clubs. And I remember going back to my apartment, and it was still like a hole in the floor, and it was still one room, and I wasn't any taller. And so that, that sort of, that summit, that Everest that had occurred by going on Letterman, I was still the same dude. And when I got canceled, I remember thinking, but I'm not any shorter. Yeah. And I don't live in a smaller, and I still have the one thing that they can't take away, which is a desire to write jokes. Yeah. And that's how I think I was able to, when The Daily Show came, work hard, but not make myself insane.
I think the saving grace for me was always I was very nervous, self-loathing.
That's so crazy. I view you so differently.
Yeah, no,
that's so crazy.
All the bullshit. But when we were doing the show,
yeah,
and Max Weinberg and the Max Weinberg 7 are playing, and we're doing this comedy that I loved, and working with Smigel and working with all these great people. I loved that part. I always loved that part. I loved an audience. And I remembered thinking, if this only lasts 6 weeks, I got to do it for 6 weeks. So I remember that it was if I could have, it was the show, it was the doing of the show that saved me.
Right.
Because the doing of it brought me joy. And also, you can't do these shows unless you're in the moment, present, and taking it beat to beat. If you're doing comedy on stage,
it got you out of your head.
It got me out of my head because now it's just time to go. It was all the rest of it that I found to be agonizing. But
could anyone help you through that? Like, I imagine somebody like Lorne, who really has been through that experience of show business and ups and downs and had a longevity in that. Is that something you were able to share with him in any way?
I think the thing about Lorne and Lorne, no one would know me if it weren't for. I think I would have made a name as a.
You had already made a name.
No.
Already.
No. But I think if Lorne hadn't chosen me, for that job, I think I would have probably through various crimes have made a name for myself.
Oh yeah,
Pacific Northwest, roaming, and then eventually.
Is that Conan O'Brien fighting in the Ukraine? What is he doing? Is he on the front lines in Kharkiv?
Look at that hair. But I think
so tall. What a target!
They can't seem to hit him. A 9-foot Wendy's girl is in Kharkiv, and no one seems to hit him.
Amazing.
Lorne has an interesting thing, which is he totally put me on the map, and I owe my career to him, and I love him to death. But he is not, and he would probably admit this too. He's a throw you in the deep end and watch you figure it out kind of guy,
right?
And so and in a way, I respect it because it works, but. He's not a hand holder. He's not someone who's going to, I know they tore you up, and I know I know that you were destroyed, and I know that article came out. I mean, he used to sometimes tell me about articles that I couldn't possibly have read. He'd say, like, I think what the Cincinnati Post-Dispatch Register said in their supermarket handout was unfair. I think someone will eventually want to mate with you, I mean, he would say, and I'd be like, what? I didn't know about, oh, no. But then he'd do that, but then he'd say, but listen, he did have an institutional knowledge, and he said, you're likable, and you've got a good quality, vulnerable quality, and all I wanted to hear is your weird comedy is so cool. That's not what Lorne was saying. I think even he early on found it off-putting and fucking crazy. But he did say, like, you're polite. You're polite, and your goodness comes through, and that will see you through. And I'd be like, what?
You're well-mannered boy.
Yeah. No, but I mean, seriously, I think...
Have you thought about wearing culottes? And playing into the well-mannered boy archetype?
He did tell me I think he did an interview a couple of years into the late night show, and it's going really well. And he said, I thought, like, well, we're doing such cutting edge comedy. I bet that's why Lorne, and he said, no. I chose Conan because, he has good manners. And I thought, fuck.